Our next speaker is an engineering leader with over 15 years of experience building fast, reliable systems at companies like Wilson, Comdiva, Globust, and Atria. Please welcome Tanay Sai.
My name is Tanay. I have been with Drupal for quite a good amount of time. I started with building small AI, not AI, Drupal projects back in the day. One of my first project was a Uber cart implementation for what used to be Sagar computers in our campus in VIT. So back in 2006, I built a small Uber cart for sacco.in domain. Today they are a big Amazon seller, and I was someone who actually had Drupal logo on my wedding card, which the physical wedding card that I distributed. So it was a big part of my life at that point of time. I worked with Acquia for a good duration of time, 2012 to 21, close to 9 years. Many of you, I'm pretty certain, like many from QED and other places, like I worked with you, and many of my team members are also here. Thanks, very happy to see them again. And today I do everything except Drupal. I work. I at Nielsen. There is a product called Nielsen Sports. So what we do is like we analyze multimodal footage, content, which is video and audio, to recognize the brands and build analytics on how many times each brand appeared, etc. So we use computer vision and Gen AI for that process. So that's what I do at for bread and butter. And outside of that, I live in Bangalore. So what I wanted to do today was like show something that is evolving, which is like running models right within your browser, not needing like any additional software or hardware, but right within your browser. That's what we'll be exploring today. This is a story from 2010. Like what I did at that time, this is called articlespinner.in. It used to basically rewrite content. So what I did, there was like this content farms which would repost a lot of spammy content about weight loss and other things. They would just have like one original piece of that article, and they would want to create 10, 20 copies of it. So I built something called Article Spinner. This was a Drupal website. It was built with Uber card for payment, and every time there used to be a nice popular user points module in Drupal. So I use that to sort of like keep credits of API, etc. And I started selling it. And I never expected that people would buy it, but people started. I used to advertise it as like NLP and everything. But what I was doing under the hood was take that English article, translate it to Italian, and get it back to English. And in that process, some phrases get rephrased. So in Italian, French, etc. So I started selling it, and it was like good pocket money, at least at that point of time. Like I would wake up to notifications from PayPal like this. You got like $5, when one or two every day, and that used to feel good. Like you build something once and you don't worry about it, and it keeps giving you pocket money. That was my first interaction with actually building any product, and that's what got me hooked. And then fast forward to 2022, when ChatGPT popped up. I think this was something that I built, which was I had a short downtime of 2, 3 months between two projects. And I built this almost immediately after ChatGPT came up. It was actually a content suite for short news platforms like Daily Hunt, etc. And it offered to rewrite content in the short news format, and with a bunch of other tools for image, etc. Again, it was also vibe coded, but vibe coding was not a term at that point of time. I had to copy paste manually from ChatGPT to IDE, etc. But I got a good part of it, and I was able to get like really only one customer, and it was giving good revenue. And very quickly I figured out what I would do next. So I actually sold off that IP to that only customer I had forever. But what is common in both of these two things is like it was all about rewriting content, paraphrasing, summarizing, etc. And people were actually paying to get that done, like be it 2012 or be it 2022. But today you can actually do all of that like right within your browser. I mean, without really needing like an OpenAI or a Gemini credentials or anything. And that is a bit of an experimental feature in Chrome, and we'll see how we can enable that and try that out. And when I say in your browser, like literally within your browser, like no additional module downloads or anything. Like if you had to show time in your page, what would you do? You would use a time function from JavaScript. Similarly, you would use prompt functions available within your browser. That is what we'll be exploring today. So a quick demo. This is a app that we built. I built a couple of weeks ago as part of Google Dev Fest Ahmedabad, and this actually shows like a simple application that runs in your browser and has a bunch of features like write text for me, etc. And I gave it a title and asked it to write about Drupal community in Pune. And when it works offline as well, like there was no API call sent to anywhere, any OpenAI or Gemini or anywhere. But this was the actual demo I had. But I felt like, I mean, this is something that may not be so exciting for a lot of the crowd here, which are all Drupal engineers, right, or evangelists. So, anyways, we'll see the demo here. This is what I initially came up with until this morning as part of my agenda for this session. We can see how we are able to rewrite content and summarize it, proofread it. You can see the demo making some errors and then trying to get it corrected with proofread, all that. I'm going to skip that demo because we ended up building something that is more exciting, which is earlier, an hour ago, Amit and Aman sat there in that room and we thought we will build the same thing for Drupal. Why not? Why show a demo that is probably not relevant to most of the people here? So what we built is actually a CK editor plugin that allows you to give a topic and write about it. And it doesn't go anywhere, like right within your browser. In your CK editor, we add a couple of buttons in the Drupal CK editor, and you say, let us see how it works, rather than me describing what it does. I'm skipping the original demo, which I planned because I think this will be more relevant. And thanks to Amit and Aman, I actually pinged them when the earlier session was happening because it has been like almost 5 years since I installed Drupal locally. So I needed, and you might ask, like, if it is a hackathon, why are we all doing it only from one computer instead of three, right? Because now we don't code, right? We only give prompts. It just needs one laptop to give all the prompts. So this is what we built. Like we built, let me play that. So we built a module. We called it Browser AI CK Editor. And once you enable that, so typically when you enable AI modules, you would expect to go and give OpenAI credentials, etc., right? So we add these buttons here. The first button is to write, so I gave a prompt like Drupal community in Pune. And so the first button we add is like to write, I gave a topic Drupal community in Pune. And you can see that it actually makes a nice blog post about Drupal community in Pune. And you would see things about like PDUG, etc., which are contextual and not really anything that I entered. Of course, that's what happens with ChatGPT or any LLM. But this ran in your browser, like there was no OpenAI call or anything. And we added a bunch of other features. For example, here I'm doing this intentional error in the spelling, and we're going to use this proofreading button to correct that spelling. And so we generated the content, we proofread it, and we could also summarize it and rewrite it in a different style. So these are the 4 buttons we added from that module. Now I'm rewriting this first paragraph. It actually rephrases it. This is exactly what people are paying for an article spinner, right? And now I'm summarizing it. And this is exactly people who are paying for in short news platform. And all of those are things that you could actually like have a website do locally without even touching any external APIs. So we'll see how that can be done. This was the saved page from the demo. So it all started in like 2018. If any of you worked with TensorFlow JS, I mean, I never worked fully dwelled with it, but sort of like tried it back and forth a little bit. So TensorFlow JS was the first attempt at trying to have ML models work in a browser. And the only way at that point of time for JavaScript code to run in a browser to access GPU was using something called WebGL, which was actually meant for rendering graphics. not for letting JavaScript access. So TensorFlow did something like hacky at that point of time. They would actually sort of create images that represented the tensors or vectors and send it to GPU, making it feel like it's going to render them, and it gets back that images and translate them back to vectors, etc. So that was like a hacky thing they did, but it served the purpose. It was pretty shaky, and it would work. Any of the application using TensorJS would crash when the browser ran for like 10 minutes because there's a lot of memory management issues, etc. But that was one of the first attempt at like trying to get a browser to run a model, any model in the in itself. And then I think in 2023, like transformers.js came up, and I think this was pretty revolutionary. Like they came up with this open neural network exchange library, and it allowed models built with PyTorch or TensorFlow to actually be run anywhere. And it had a good set of models that could run, and there were like good set of tools that could allow things to be run in browser. So all that was fine, but nevertheless, there were like a bunch of issues with all of that. One is every app or website had to throw 200 to 2 GB of its own model, and that would mean that you would wait initially for a lot of time for that model to download and everything, and you would also end up using a lot of space. And the first wait run was more like every time someone signed up, you would have like really bad experience letting that model download initially for a lot of time. And on top of it, it was not plain simple JavaScript code. It required like a lot of uh, memory management and handling quantization and everything. So it was again, I mean, both from a user perspective and also from a developer perspective, both it was a bit shaky. And I mentioned the memory management issues, like browsers would crash if they did not handle this memory threads effectively. On top of it, what worked in one browser never worked the same in other browsers. So all these issues were there. And now what Google has done recently is built in. Again, I'm not a fan of how this is evolving right now, but I think one of the major developments is Chrome has sort of pushed Gemini nano models right into their browser, and which means that you can actually access them just with a like any other time or any API data functions in JavaScript. So that is where we stand today. And what Chrome's built-in API does is, earlier there used to be a per model download, but now you have a common nano model right in your browser. So you don't have to have your things download the model again and again. And it's just JavaScript. Like you don't have to know a lot of ML or anything. And you don't have to worry about memory management like how you would write code with TensorFlow JS. It is just simple, like how you are using ChatGPT today. Pretty simple, straightforward. ChatGPT API, OpenAI API is pretty simple, straightforward. And there are, as we saw, like apart from a very generic prompt API that can serve any purpose, there are a bunch of summarization and content generation and proofreading APIs that are separately available for us to use right within the browser. The prompt API is pretty powerful and effective. Like I think you might ask, what? No one. It's not just content generation, right? What you showed is relevant if you are creating a platform for blogging or anything. But what are other use cases? I think we'll cover one of them, like as a sample. For example, one use case we see here is if you have a CRM that has like multiple addresses, and if you had to extract like name, city, and pin code, structured information from that, that is something you can do with OpenAI type of stuff now with the structured content generation. You could do exactly that right within your browser without having to send all that data to your servers. So this is something you can try in your Chrome today. because it is not still a public release, you have to go to Chrome://flags, and you have to find this flag called prompt API for Gemini Nano, and you have to enable that flag. When you enable that flag and when you try this in your console the first time, right, it will take a 200 MB download. But thing is, it is a one-time thing for all websites and everything. And probably likely in the future, when it is no more an experimental feature that you have to enable via a flag, if you once they make it part of the public API, again we'll cover the timeline in terms of where it stands in Chrome APIs, etc. Probably that is when you would not need to wait for it for the initial model use. Maybe it will be included as part of the Chrome update itself. But as of now, if you want to try it, open Chrome://flags, FLAGS flags, and you'll be able to see a bunch of flags, and you can search for prompt, PROMPT, and this will be disabled by default. You can enable it. Once you enable it, you can actually start using it in your console itself, and also in your JS code or anywhere in your applications. So in your console, you can try giving a prompt like you would do in ChatGPT, and you would be able to get a response. The main difference is like one, today, many of these use cases, you would still send that content to your backend server. So there is latency and there is cost of tokens involved in every step, right? And there is also issue with like how much of data is sent. And in some cases, you would, especially in telecom and healthcare and banking, you would have a lot of restrictions on not being able to send content to cloud platforms for privacy reasons. In all those use cases, those use cases, as well as this is basically crowdsourcing your AI capability, like how people at some point of time started mining tokens using by putting some JS in applications, and but that is for a not so great purpose. But this one is where you are actually letting your users take a share of the load in running those AI workloads. And it does need a good laptop to run. As of now, it actually needs like either a 4 GB, even if you enable those flags, unless you have these requirements, it would not really work. So one is you would need at least 4 GB of GPU, and if you don't have it, you would need at least 16 GB of RAM with 4 cores. And the initial download, even if it is 200 MB, with all the working files, it needs at least 22 GB of space to work. Again, it's an experimental feature. So I think over a period of time, it will standardize to be something that would probably need so much of resources. And this is the example that I was talking about. This is a use case where imagine a CRM where someone is actually sort of like modernizing or structurizing their existing data. And you can totally imagine there could be a form where there is unstructured address and you are asking someone to extract city, state, and pin code from that. And a typical operations workflow would be something like someone reads that text and sort of copies or types in the city, state, and pin code. So here we are doing exactly what we showed in a snippet of code previously, using browser AI to have all those extracted and populated. We'll try that. There is a GitHub repo where I've put the application, the Notepad application, as well as this code. I'll share it towards the end of this session. So once I click extract, now this is like pure JS running within the client. It works offline, and we're able to extract one by one the address, city, state, zip code from each of them. It's similar to imagine like asking, again, have you ever worked on extracting structured information with OpenAI or Gemini or any Bedrock model? Any rise of hands who has not worked or worked? For the rest of the people, like all these APIs, they allow you to give what you need to, and you can also say that like if I went and asked Gemini copy this address and say, hey, give me the city, state, and zip code from this address in the UI, Gemini would actually like write a lot of additional text as well. And you will end up having to do crazy operations to exactly extract that, because it might say, hey, the address is, once it might say that, or sometimes it might just say city colon, etc. So that is where we use the capability of models to make them give the information exactly in the same structure that we are expecting. So that is structured output, and we are using the structured output capability of the local model here to do exactly that. And speaking of some use cases, again, Google to sort of like promote this, they ran a hackathon type of thing. I think people built a bunch of apps. One of them was a WordPress on-device AI, very similar to what we just built today and what I demonstrated, like allowing content tagging, summarization, and proofreading and other capabilities in WordPress. And someone built a flashcard generator for people to read through research papers or blogs and memorize it, being able to generate that flashcards on the fly through a Chrome extension. Similarly, someone made a YouTube extension that, a Chrome extension that extracts the transcripts from YouTube and sort of like uses it to create quizzes from that video, etc. Again, these are things you could do even with OpenAI or API or Gemini API or anything, but people built this using the local models. So within Chrome itself, some of these are available in the stable release, although hidden behind that experimental flag. I was specifically looking forward for this multimodal input, which is not still available in the public release. The reason I was looking for that is I think there is a good use case in terms of like probably build. I mean, it might be a native Chrome feature down the lane, but you could have like just one-click Chrome extension that reads all the images and ask the model to describe that image and add it as a alt text, so for better accessibility, right? So that was one extension I was interested in building it myself, and I was looking forward to it. And also, as you saw, we did one thing which is the address extraction, but there could be more use cases which are very specific to legal or banking, etc. So LoRa fine tuning would allow fine tuning that local models to do specific operations. Then again, I don't know how the ecosystem will evolve in terms of allowing that fine tuning to be pushed to end devices. But I think all of you might actually think like, how is this? I mean, how is it going to help in B2C applications? But more than that, like for example, what I do with my team is basically enabling our operations team in doing a lot of stuff. So there we have control, like, I mean, it's a large operations team. We have control on the type of browser they use, the type of models we can load into that browser, the type of extensions we extract. So even in those situations, I think it's going to add a lot of value, being able to allow people to fine tune the model than just using a generic model. The context size is also pretty small right now. And I saw in the published timeline that that is also going to be something that is going to be larger. And it is not a standardized thing at this point of time. I think all the communities are fighting amongst themselves. And so Chrome wants to push Gemini Nano, and Edge is doing the same thing by pushing this 5.4 mini model. At least from a API standpoint, there is some standardization, but from a model standpoint, there is no consensus. Firefox is pushing for bring your own model type of strategy than having something bundled. So there is going to be a lot of back and forth, and Safari, as you can expect with Apple, is nowhere in the picture because it is AI. So this was a slide I had prior to we did the hackathon. What I felt is like there is a good opportunity for someone allow leveraging the browser model in Drupal, but that is exactly I think what we did in the hackathon today. And we were actually like Amit, Aman, and I were brainstorming like we could probably have, because a lot of Drupal's ecosystem is already integrated with this AI module, it might actually make sense for someone to build a wrapper or a plugin that allows Drupal AI module to use this. But I think the largest challenge would be the way Drupal AI module, I think, is structured today. But again, Marcus and others could probably guide on that. Is it expects the API call to go to some specific IP address or a domain and not back to the browser. So that might be a challenge in terms of building a plugin. It might require probably the Drupal AI module to run a WebSocket connection with the browser to be able to use the browser's model, which is why it might not be as simple as implementing a class, a plugin class. And awesome, that's all I had from me. Thanks for joining me in this discussion.